You are losing arguments to people who are objectively wrong. You bring facts. You bring reason. You build your case like a fortress. And yet they dismantle you with nothing but emotion, misdirection, and a smile that says they've already won. You walk away confused, angry, questioning your own intelligence. You replay the conversation in your head for days, trying to understand how someone so illogical made you look like a fool. Here's the truth. They didn't defeat your logic. They bypassed it entirely. They attacked something deeper. Something you didn't know you were defending. You know exactly who I'm talking about. You've been in that conversation. Perhaps you're still bleeding from the last one. 500 years ago, Niccolò Machiavelli understood something that most people spend their entire lives refusing to accept. Logic is not the battlefield where human conflicts are won. He wrote in The Prince. Men judge generally more by the eye than by the hand, because it belongs to everybody to see you, to few to come in touch with you. Translation: appearance dominates reality. Perception kills truth. Most arguments are not about discovering truth. They are about establishing dominance. And the person who understands this walks into every debate with a knife while you're holding a textbook. Today we are going to perform surgery on your understanding of persuasion. We are going to cut away the diseased belief that facts win arguments. We are going to arm you with the dark tactics that destroy logical defenses before they're even built. If you're exhausted from being right and losing anyway, listen closely. This will rewire how you see every conversation for the rest of your life. But be warned. Once you see how easily logic is destroyed, you can never return. To the comforting illusion that reason rules human behavior. Let me explain why you keep losing. You operate under what I call the rationalist delusion, the belief that if you present enough evidence, organize your points clearly, and speak calmly, the other person will have no choice but to surrender to your superior reasoning. This is a fantasy. Human beings do not process arguments like computers. They process them like organisms defending territory. When you present facts that contradict someone's identity, beliefs, or ego, their brain doesn't analyze, it attacks. You are not in a debate. You are in a war. And you're using the wrong weapons. I'm going to reveal the 7 weapons that destroy logic instantly. These are not theories. These are the dark patterns used by politicians, manipulators, cult leaders, and anyone who has ever made you doubt yourself despite knowing you were right. Each weapon is more dangerous than the last. Master them and you become untouchable. Ignore them and you will spend your life being defeated by people half as intelligent as you. We're going to dissect all 7. Each one darker than the one before. This is the art of controlling the battlefield before the war begins. You think the argument starts when someone disagrees with you. Wrong. The argument starts when they decide what the argument is about. Here's how it works. You present a logical point. Instead of responding to it, they reframe the entire conversation around something you never said. Example. You say, the data shows this policy didn't work. They respond, so you don't care about the people it was meant to help? Notice what happened. They didn't address your logic. They reframed you as heartless. Now you're defending your character, not your argument. You've already lost. Machiavelli warned, everyone sees what you appear to be, few experience what you really are. The frame hijacker makes you appear cruel, selfish, or ignorant, regardless of what you actually said. And once the frame is set, your logic becomes irrelevant. Why do they do it? Because responding to your logic requires effort, intelligence, and the risk of being wrong. Reframing you as a villain requires none of those things. It's efficient. It's ruthless. It works. The trap you fall into, you try to clarify. You say, that's not what I meant. You explain yourself. You defend your intentions. Every word you speak reinforces their frame. You are now the accused. They are the judge. The consequence: if you allow someone to control the frame, they control reality. You can have all the facts in the world. It won't matter. You'll be arguing against a distortion of yourself. The prescription: when someone hijacks the frame, name it immediately. Say, you're reframing what I said. I didn't say that. Address what I actually said or admit you can't. Refuse to defend yourself against accusations you never earned. Rip the frame apart before it solidifies. Final warning. The frame is the foundation. If they control it, they control everything that follows. This is the weaponization of feeling over fact. You're presenting logic. Clean. Structured. Undeniable. And then, suddenly, they detonate. Tears. Anger. Outrage. Pain. They don't refute your argument. They make you feel guilty for having made it. You know this person. They raise their voice. Their face reddens. They tell you how hurt they are. How disappointed. How they expected better from you. Your logic evaporates. You feel like a monster. You retreat, Machiavelli noted. Men are so simple and so subject to present necessities, that he who seeks to deceive will always find someone who will allow himself to be deceived. The emotional avalanche deceives you into believing that feeling strongly equals being right. Why do they do it? Because emotion is a social weapon. Humans are wired to avoid causing pain. When someone signals distress, you instinctively back down, not because your logic failed but because your empathy was exploited. The trap you fall into, you apologize, you soften. You say, "I didn't mean to upset you." You abandon your point to restore peace. But there is no peace. Only submission. The consequence, you teach them that emotion defeats reason. Every future argument will escalate faster. They will cry louder, rage harder because they know it works. The prescription, do not respond to emotion with logic. You'll lose. Instead pause. Let the storm pass. Then calmly say, "I understand you're upset. That doesn't change what's true. When you're ready to discuss the point, I'm here." You acknowledge the emotion without surrendering to it. You hold the line. Final warning, the emotional avalanche is a flood. If you don't stand firm, it will sweep away everything you built. I know you've been in this flood. You felt the guilt rising. The voice saying, "Maybe I'm wrong." Kill that voice. That voice is not your conscience, it's conditioning. This is when they make your evidence their weapon. You present your case. They respond, "Prove it." You show proof. They say, "That source is biased." You show another. They say, "That's not enough. Show me more." You show more. They say, "I'm not convinced." You are now trapped in an infinite loop. No matter how much evidence you provide, it will never be enough. Because they're not seeking truth, that they're exhausting you. This is called Cylioning, the bad faith demand for endless proof while offering nothing in return. Sun Tzu wrote, "To win 100 victories in 100 battles is not the acme of skill. To subdue the enemy without fighting is the acme of skill." They subdue you by making you fight forever. Why do they do it? Because the burden of proof is heavy. If they can place it entirely on your shoulders, you collapse under the weight while they stroll away untouched. The trap you fall into, you keep providing evidence. You think, if I just show them one more source, they'll have to admit I'm right. They will never admit it. The game was never about evidence. The consequence, you waste hours, days, weeks trying to convince someone who was never open to being convinced. Your energy drains. Your confidence erodes. The prescription, reverse the burden. Say, "I've presented my case. If you disagree, present yours. Show me your evidence. Convince me. Stop doing all the work. Make them defend their position." Most will crumble immediately, because they have nothing. Final warning, proof is not a gift. Do not hand it to someone who will never receive it. This is the deliberate distortion of your argument into something weak, absurd, or extreme, and then destroying that distortion. You say, "We should have stricter regulations on this issue." They respond, "So you want total government control over every aspect of life? You want a dictatorship." You never said that. But now you're defending yourself against it. The strawman is a puppet. They build it, dress it in your clothes, and set it on fire. In front of an audience. The audience doesn't notice the switch. They just see you burning. Machiavelli observed, "It is not titles that honor men, but men that honor titles." The strawman gives you a false title, extremist, tyrant, fool, and makes you defend it. Once you do, the title becomes real. Why do they do it? Because your actual argument is strong. They can't defeat it. So they create a weaker version and defeat that instead. The trap you fall into, you correct them. You say, "That's not what I said." You're already in the trap. You're now arguing about what you meant instead of the topic itself. The consequence, the audience remembers the strawman, not your real argument. You are forever associated with the absurd position they invented for you. The prescription, expose it immediately. Say, "That is not my argument. That is a distortion you created because you cannot refute what I actually said. Address my real position or concede." Refuse to engage with the puppet. Force them to face you. Final warning, the strawman is seductive. It feels good to correct misunderstandings. Resist. Correction is submission. Breathe. I know this is heavy. I know faces are appearing in your mind. Names you've tried to forget. Stay with me. The next 3 weapons are darker. This is the nuclear option. They attack you instead of your argument. You say we should eat healthy, but I saw you eating fast food last week. You talk about saving money, but you bought an expensive phone. You criticize violence, but you support a military. This is called tu quoque, Latin for you too. They don't address whether your argument is true. They address whether you are perfect. And since no one is perfect, your argument dies. Why do they do it? Because attacking the messenger is easier than refuting the message. If they can make you a hypocrite, they discredit everything you say, past, present, and future. The trap you fall into, you defend your actions. You explain why the situations are different. You justify your choices. You're no longer debating ideas. You're on trial. The consequence, your credibility is permanently stained. Every future argument you make will be met with, remember when you, the prescription, separate the argument from the arguer. Say, whether I'm a hypocrite is irrelevant. The argument stands or falls on its own merit. Address it or don't. Your personal imperfection does not make truth false. Final warning, the appeal.to hypocrisy is an assassination. They kill your character to bury your logic. This is when they equate two fundamentally different things and pretend they're the same. You think stealing is wrong? Well, taxation is theft. So you're against all government. You support free speech, so you support hate speech? They take your principle, stretch it to absurdity, and force you to defend the absurd extension. False equivalence is a trap disguised as logic. It sounds reasonable. Feels like a gotcha. But it's built on a foundation of distortion. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Everything we hear is an opinion, not a fact. Everything we see is a perspective, not the truth." The false equivalence presents distorted perspective as undeniable fact. Why do they do it? Because nuance is difficult. Black and white is easy. If they can force you into a corner where you must defend an extreme position, they win without effort. The trap you fall into, you try to explain the difference. You say, those aren't the same because you're now in a philosophical debate about definitions. You've lost the original point. The consequence, the audience that doesn't follow nuance. They remember the false equivalence. You become associated with the extreme. The prescription, reject the comparison outright. Say, those are not equivalent. That's a false comparison designed to distort my position. Address what I actually said. Do not explain. Do not justify. Reject. Final warning, false equivalence is poison. One drop contaminates the entire argument. This is the most insidious weapon. They force you to justify every foundation of your argument until you collapse into uncertainty. You make a point. They ask, why? You explain. They ask, but why is that true? You explain further. They ask, but how do you know? They keep pulling the thread until you reach a foundational belief you cannot prove, and then they claim victory. How do you know your senses are reliable? How do you know logic itself is valid? You are now defending the existence of reality itself. Why do they do it? Because every belief rests on axioms, unprovable foundations. If they can force you to defend axioms, they expose you as unscientific or faith-based. The trap you fall into, you try to answer every why. You think if you just go deep enough you'll satisfy them. You won't. The regress is infinite by design. The consequence, you doubt yourself. You question your own certainty. You walk away feeling intellectually defeated, not because you were wrong but because you were dragged into a philosophical abyss. The prescription, cut the thread. Say, we've reached foundational axioms. If you reject those, we cannot have a conversation. Accept the framework or propose a better one. Do not chase infinity. Final warning, the infinite regress is a black hole. Once you enter, you cannot escape. You've been there. You felt your confidence dissolve. You've questioned what you knew was true. Never again. Now you see them. The 7 weapons that destroy logic without ever touching it. You see them in comment sections. You see them across dinner tables. You see them in the mouths of people you trusted. You feel a weight because you realize, most arguments were never about truth. They were about control, dominance, victory. You've been playing chess while they played war. Here is the final lesson, the one that separates the sovereign from the slave. You do not owe anyone a debate. Read that again. You do not owe anyone a debate. If someone uses these weapons, they have forfeited the right to your logic. They are not seeking enlightenment. They are seeking your submission. Machiavelli wrote, "The wise man does more by being silent than the fool does by speaking." Walk away. Not in defeat. In sovereignty. When you recognize a bad faith argument, name it once, you're using a strawman, and then disengage. Do not explain. Do not defend. Do not chase. Your time, your energy, your mental peace, these are finite resources. Spend them on people who seek truth, not people who weaponize confusion. You are not a punching bag for intellectual cowards. You are not required to educate those who refuse to learn. You are sovereign. What you gain, clarity returns. Peace arrives. You stop replaying conversations in your head because you no longer participate in battles designed to have no winner. You reclaim your mind. But be careful. As you cut away these toxic patterns from your life, you will face a final enemy. The most dangerous one of all. Yourself. Because once you understand these weapons, you'll be tempted to use them. You'll see how easy it is to destroy someone's logic. How effortless it is to win through manipulation instead of merit. And you'll have to decide, who are you in the dark? Are you the person who wields these weapons only in self-defense? Or do you become the predator you learn to recognize? That is a shadow for another time. What if the greatest battle isn't out there? What if it's in the mirror? If you made it here, you are not like most people. Most will watch the first 3 minutes, feel uncomfortable, and leave. They prefer the lie that logic wins. That facts matter. That reason prevails. You stayed. That means something. Understand this. What I can show you publicly is only the surface. There are psychological weapons I cannot discuss on YouTube without triggering censorship. There are manipulation patterns so effective, so dark, that revealing them openly would be dangerous. The algorithm suppresses the most powerful truths. Subscribe if you haven't. Simple. But if you want what's hidden, the uncensored breakdowns, the forbidden strategies, the content too dark for public view, click the join button. Step into the inner sanctum. You'll unlock exclusive videos that go where this one cannot. And remember, the weapon you don't see is the one that kills you. Stay sharp. Stay sovereign. The war for your mind never ends.